At my dad's 60th birthday, they told me I wasn't meant to be here after I'd been sending them $1,500 every month like it was nothing. I thought that was the ultimate betrayal until a random message exposed the truth about my family. Hey Reddit, buckle up for this one. I never thought I'd end up cutting off my entire family. But what started as a simple trip to surprise my dad for his birthday turned into something way darker. I found out things I can't unsee, stuff that flipped my entire life upside down. Stick around till the end, because when the truth finally came out, it shocked even me. I wasn't planning to fly anywhere that week. My schedule was tight, work was stacked, and honestly, I didn't owe anyone a visit. But then I remembered Dad was turning 60. No party invite, no text, nothing. Still, he was my old man, the one person in that house who'd ever treated me like I had a brain. So yeah, I booked a last-minute flight across the country. Not because anyone asked, but because some things you do out of respect, not obligation. My family's weird, always has been. Dad's the calm one, quiet, steady, the type of guy who keeps his word even when no one's watching. He worked factory shifts for years, rarely complained, and somehow still managed to fix every broken thing in that house himself. Then there's Mom, the manager of everyone's lives. She talks like she's the CEO of the family. And of course, there's Jerry, the golden child. The guy who failed upwards so many times it should have been a sport. Jerry could burn down the house, and Mom would probably blame the match manufacturer. He's one of those guys who thinks being good with people is a personality. He's still couch surfing between business ventures, which basically means posting quotes about success while borrowing gas money. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the lucky one, the one who had a decent job, kept my life together, and therefore, according to Mom, didn't need help, but could always give it. Over the years, I'd quietly paid for things I didn't even use. When their furnace broke 2 winters ago, guess who covered it? When the utility bills piled up last fall, I sent a transfer because Mom said, "Your father doesn't need the stress right now." Never an acknowledgement, just silence. And if I ever hinted at wanting boundaries, Mom would say something like, "Juanita, not everything is about money. You're too sensitive." So yeah, this flight wasn't about them. It was about Dad. He deserved at least one person in the family who didn't treat him like background noise. The day I booked it, I threw some clothes in a carry-on, printed the boarding pass, and was halfway through replying to work emails when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mom. "He doesn't need to be here. It'll just make things tense." That was it. No context, no name, just that line. I stared at it for a solid minute, waiting for a second message. Maybe something like, "Oops, wrong chat." But instead, the message bubble popped up, then disappeared. Then another notification. Message deleted. Typical. Who was he? Me? Dad's friend? Jerry? Part of me wanted to believe it was just a mistake. Maybe she meant to text Jerry about someone else, but the pit in my stomach said otherwise. For a second, I hovered over the call button. I could have just asked, but then I pictured the conversation. Her pretending not to know what I was talking about, acting offended, flipping it back on me like always. "Juanita, why do you always assume the worst?" Yeah, no thanks. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. I could have just called Dad, sent a gift, and moved on. But something in me wanted to show up. I didn't expect applause or a speech or even eye contact from Mom or Jerry. I just wanted Dad to see that someone still gave a damn without expecting a favor in return. I just wanted to look my dad in the eye, hand him a card, and tell him happy birthday. No drama, no family talks. Just a moment between two people who still respected each other. Still, that text wouldn't leave my head. He doesn't need to be here. Deleted or not, the words stuck. I laughed under my breath. "Yeah," I muttered, because God forbid I ruined the family performance. I closed my eyes and leaned back. Whatever waited on the other side, I'd handle it like I always did, calmly, directly, and without begging for a seat at their table. If they didn't want me there, fine, but I was going anyway. This wasn't a big deal. I'd show up, hand Dad the card, maybe grab lunch, and head back. Simple. The driver pulled up in front of my parents' place around 11 o'clock. For a second, I actually felt good about it. Familiar, like muscle memory. Then I noticed something off. There were a few balloons tied to the mailbox, deflated and half tangled in each other. I frowned. Maybe Jerry's girlfriend had thrown some little thing last night. Nothing big. Still, I hadn't heard a word about any of it. No invite, no text, not even a casual, "Hey, we're doing dinner tomorrow." I walked up the steps, straightened the card in my hand, and knocked. The door opened, and there he was. Dad, gray at the temples, still built like he could lift a refrigerator if he needed to. He blinked at me like I was a mirage. "Juanita," I said. "Morning, Dad. Happy birthday." He hesitated, looking behind me like he expected a camera crew. "You're here?" "Yeah," I said, trying to smile. "Figured I'd surprise you." Behind him, I caught sight of the dining table covered in disposable plates, party cups, streamers, and a half-eaten cake with 60 candles leaning sideways. My stomach tightened. "Oh," I said slowly. "Looks like I missed the party." Dad turned around, confused. "Missed the party?" Before he could finish, Mom's voice came from the kitchen. "Who's at the door?" She appeared, perfectly dressed for no reason, holding her phone like it was an accessory. The second she saw me, her face dropped like I'd just shown up to ruin a commercial shoot. "Oh, Juanita." Jerry followed right behind her, yawning, wearing some overpriced shirt I probably bought indirectly. "Well, look who decided to visit," he said, grinning. "A day late as usual." I looked between them, then back at the leftover decorations. "So, I take it there was a party." Mom crossed her arms. That fake calm look she uses when she's already building her argument. "We already celebrated. You didn't come?" "I didn't come because I didn't know about it," I said flatly. Jerry snorted. "Right. You didn't know. Guess work's just more important than family again, huh?" Dad's face changed. The smile he had when he first opened the door just disappeared. "Hold on," he said quietly, looking at Mom. "Did you—" She cut him off like he wasn't even there. "We didn't want to make things tense, Juanita. Every time there's an event, somehow it turns into a debate or a lecture. We just wanted your father to have a nice, peaceful dinner this time." "Peaceful," I repeated. "Got it." Jerry leaned against the doorframe, smirking. "Man, you're really showing up with a card after missing the whole thing. Classic." I glanced at him. "Yeah, sorry. I was too busy paying for the house you celebrated in." He laughed, the fake kind, like he didn't even catch the jab. Mom's eyes narrowed. "There's no need for that tone. You always think you're the victim, Juanita. We just—" "No," I interrupted, calm but firm. "You just didn't want me here. Don't dress it up like it was for my sake." Her jaw tightened. "We thought you'd make it awkward anyway. It's your Father's Day and you'd probably make it about yourself again." That one actually made me laugh. I looked right at her and said, "Yeah, because that's exactly what I'm known for. Stealing the spotlight at birthday dinners I pay for, but don't get invited to." I reached into my bag, pulled out the small envelope, and placed it on the kitchen counter beside the leftover cake. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said quietly. "You deserve better company than this." But at least someone remembered what the day was supposed to mean. Mom opened her mouth, probably ready to play the guilt card again, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned around, grabbed the doorknob, and stepped outside. "Juanita," Dad called after me once, not angry, just torn. I didn't look back. "It's fine," I said. "Enjoy the rest of your peaceful weekend." The sun hit hard as I walked down the driveway. The Uber driver was still parked where I'd told him to wait. I climbed in without a word. I'd come for a simple visit, just to say happy birthday, but what I walked into wasn't a home. It was a stage where everyone was playing a role, and for once, I decided not to play mine. The Uber dropped me at a hotel a few miles from my parents' place. Nothing fancy, just one of those chain spots with decent Wi-Fi and bad carpet patterns. I walked up to the counter, set my bag down, and gave the woman my ID. She typed for a second, then stopped. Her eyes narrowed at the screen. "Wait, Jerry's sister?" I blinked. "Yeah, Juanita. Why?" I expected the jerk had left some debt here or there. She squinted at my ID for a second. My last name must have clicked. Jerry had shown her photos before, bragging about his family drama. Her whole posture changed. "Unbelievable." She crossed her arms, frowning. "You should honestly be ashamed of yourself." I tilted my head. "For checking in?" "No, for living off him," she snapped. "Jerry's told me everything. That you don't work. That he's been covering your bills for years. He said you took money from your parents, from him. That's why he's been so stressed lately." For a second, I thought this was a prank. Then it hit me. Wait, I said slowly. You're his girlfriend. Her glare was sharp enough to cut glass. Yes, and I'm proud to be his. I leaned on the counter, calm as ever. Let me guess. He told you he's been paying my rent, right? She nodded, angry. He said you keep asking for loans, right? I said. And you believe that? Her brows furrowed. Why wouldn't I? I smiled. Because he's been borrowing from me since college. He's taken money from our parents for years. That new job he told you about doesn't exist. She froze. You're lying. Check your Venmo history, I said. See if the business expenses he asked you to cover ever turned into a business. Spoiler, they didn't. She fumbled with her phone, scrolling fast. Her face drained. Oh my God, he told me that was for a client dinner. Yeah, I said. His client's name is Jerry. She slammed the phone on the counter, shaking her head. He made me feel bad for him. Said his sister was selfish, that you never help him out. I shrugged. He's good at that. You're not the first one he's fooled. She stood there for a long moment, then straightened her shoulders. Not anymore. Her voice steadied. I'm done. I'm calling him right now. Do it after I check in, I said with a grin. I've had enough family drama for one day. That actually made her laugh just once, short and sharp. She handed me my room card and said, For what it's worth, I believe you, and I'm going to make sure everyone else does too. I nodded. One down. When the elevator doors closed behind me, I exhaled, half amused, half disgusted. Jerry had been lying to his own girlfriend about me. That was a new low, even for him. The room was standard hotel grade. Gray walls, beige curtains, bed tucked too tight. I dropped my bag, sat down, and stared at the carpet for a good minute before pulling out my phone. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. I opened my banking app. The numbers loaded slowly, mocking me. There it was, the list of recurring payments. Utilities, internet, insurance, phone plan, even some old subscription Jerry had begged me to temporarily cover. Over time, to make things easier, Mom had switched all the family bills to online accounts using my email and card on file. So yeah, everything ended up under my name. Scrolling felt like going through receipts of my own stupidity. I'd been funding that entire house without a word of thanks. $1,500 a month minimum, maybe more. Then I saw something new, a recent charge for Jerry's Fitness Plus family plan, dated 2 days ago. He'd literally added another payment under my name after lying about me freeloading. I laughed, an actual out-loud laugh that probably freaked out whoever was in the room next door. The phone buzzed. A new message. Mom, I hope you're not still upset. You made everyone uncomfortable. It was supposed to be a happy night. Unreal. I typed back a single thumbs up emoji, hit send. Then I went back to the banking app. My finger hovered over the first line. The family phone plan. I suspended my payments on the family phone plan and moved my own line off it. The rest of them would have to handle their own bills from now on. Good. One by one, I went down the list. Phone plan suspended. Utilities auto payoff. Insurance auto payoff. Mortgage auto payoff. Every tab felt cleaner than the last. Somewhere in the middle of it, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Jerry. What the hell did you do? I raised an eyebrow, opened it. A second message came in before I could even reply. You made my girlfriend break up with me. She blocked me everywhere. I grinned. So, she actually did it. Then another message popped up, longer this time. She said you told her lies about me taking money. What's wrong with you? You ruined everything for me. I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. Ruined everything. I hadn't even started yet. I typed back slowly, enjoying every second. Hey, I didn't ruin anything. You just ran out of people to scam. That's on you, champ. His reply came in fast. You're such a jealous loser. You always have to one-up me. I shook my head. Jealous of what? The part where you live off everyone like a tick. 3 dots appeared, then another message. You think you're so perfect? You don't even help family anymore. Everyone sees who you really are. I typed back, yeah, finally. He didn't reply right away, and I figured that was it. Then my phone buzzed again. A voice note this time. I press play. It was just him yelling, muffled and chaotic. Something about how mom's freaking out, dad's mad, and I hope you're happy. I was. I texted one last line. Tell mom to pay the phone bill before she calls me next time. Then I set the phone face down on the nightstand, still grinning. The room was quiet except for the AC humming. For years, I'd let them talk, drain, and twist things however they wanted. But tonight, I was done explaining. Let them panic. Let them figure out how to live without the woman they treated like an ATM. I leaned back against the headboard, smirking to myself. It didn't feel cruel. It felt well-deserved. That peace didn't last long. By morning, my phone was lighting up like a slot machine. Guess they scrambled to switch the family plan into Jerry's name because my phone lit up again within a day. Mom started with, "You embarrassed us last night. Your father is furious." Then Jerry, "You're insane. You destroyed everything. Hope you're proud." Mom again, "I don't know what's wrong with you. You used to be a good daughter." Jerry again, "You made me lose everything. She dumped me because of you." I scrolled through each message with a kind of detached amusement. It was weird. Years ago, those words would have sent me spiraling. Now they just read like background noise from people who were finally out of excuses. Then came a knock on my hotel door. Firm 2 taps, pause, then one more. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a split second, I thought it might be Jerry, which would have been entertaining. I checked the peephole. It wasn't Jerry, it was Dad. He stood there in the hallway, shoulders slightly slumped, wearing that same work jacket he'd had since I was a kid. No dramatic expression, just tired eyes. I opened the door. "You alone?" He nodded. "Yeah." I stepped aside. "Come in." He walked in slowly like he was carrying something heavy that wasn't visible. When he sat down on the edge of the chair near the window, he rubbed the back of his neck and sighed. "I didn't know you were in town," he said quietly. "If I had, things would have gone different." I crossed my arms. "So, you didn't know about the party?" He shook his head, eyes down. "No, your mom and Jerry handled everything. It was a surprise. When I asked why you weren't here, they told me you weren't coming, said you were too busy and didn't care." "Sounds familiar," I said dryly. Dad gave a small, guilty nod. "They've been doing that for a while, haven't they?" "Yeah. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and apparently birthdays now." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I should have noticed sooner. He hesitated. I didn't want to believe it. For the first time in years, he actually looked embarrassed, like he was realizing what I'd known all along. There was a long silence. Then he said, "I didn't come here to defend them. I came to tell you something you deserve to know." That got my attention. He took a deep breath, staring at the floor. "All that money you've been sending, the transfers, the payments, the help you gave for bills and repairs. I thought it was going where you said it was." I frowned. "What do you mean, thought?" He looked up at me, eyes tired but clear. "It wasn't." "What are you saying, Dad?" He rubbed his hands together, almost ashamed to say it. "Your mom, she's been keeping part of it, a lot of it, putting it into Jerry's account. Said it was to help him get back on his feet. I didn't know until I saw the bank statements last week." For a few seconds, I didn't even move. The words just sat there heavy like bricks in my chest. "She's been stealing from me," I said finally. He nodded once. "I wish I could say it was a misunderstanding, but it's not. She's been moving money behind my back, too. I didn't find out until I went to pay the property taxes, and the account was lower than it should have been." I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. "So, all those family emergencies I covered were just Jerry's allowance?" "Pretty much." That hit harder than I wanted to admit. Every late-night transfer, every thanks, daughter, you saved us again had been a lie. Dad's voice broke through my thoughts. "You did nothing wrong, Juanita. You've done more for this family than anyone. I should have stopped it a long time ago." I shook my head slowly. "Yes, you should have. You shouldn't have had to, but you should have. She should have known better. He should have known better." "I know." He looked down again. "I just kept hoping it would fix itself. I didn't want to start a fight." That made me pause because it was exactly what I used to tell myself. Keep quiet. Avoid conflict. Keep the peace. It was like hearing my old reflection speak back at me. Dad continued, voice lower now. "I confronted her last night after you left. She said it was just temporary, that she'd planned to pay it back. I told her that's not how you treat your own daughter. And Jerry? I asked. He didn't say much. Just acted guilty for about 5 seconds, then blamed your mother. Of course he did. Dad gave a small laugh that didn't reach his eyes. You know, I used to think you were being too hard on him. I see it now. He's been coasting his whole life because we let him. I sat down on the other bed, elbows resting on my knees. You let them, Dad. Not just him. He nodded. You're right. He looked up. And I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. It was the first real apology I'd ever gotten from him. Not a half sentence, not a shrug, a full, clean, honest one. For a long minute, neither of us spoke. There wasn't much left to say. Finally, Dad stood up. I just wanted you to hear it from me. You're not the problem here. You never were. I nodded. I know, but thanks for telling me. He reached for the doorknob, then paused. I'm proud of you, Juanita. Even if your mom and Jerry can't say it, I am. I didn't reply right away. Just gave him a short nod. Take care of yourself, Dad. He opened the door, looked back once more, and said, You did the right thing cutting them off. Don't doubt that. Then he walked out. When the door closed, I sat there processing everything. Mom stealing from me, Jerry pocketing the money, Dad finally seeing the truth. It was messed up, but it was also the first time in years that someone in that family had chosen me, and that for once felt like progress. I packed up that same night, booked the first flight out the next morning, and didn't even bother saying goodbye. I landed back home mid-afternoon, dropped my bag, and went straight into work mode. Normally, that's what I needed. By the third day, my inbox was a war zone. Mortgage late payment alert, insurance lapse notification, utility bill delinquent. They were all forwarded from the account still linked to my old email. I hadn't fully disconnected everything yet, and now I was getting a front row seat to their collapse. Then came the calls. Mom, of course, was the loudest. The first few were voicemails filled with her usual tone, half crying, half lecturing. Juanita, you're ruining us. You can't just cut us off like this. Your father's too proud to ask for help, and your brother's struggling. You're being cruel. She called again an hour later. I can't believe you do this to your family. You have no heart. Then in the next voicemail, she was crying again. We raised you better than this. It was the emotional version of channel flipping. Guilt, shame, rage, repeat. Jerry, on the other hand, went straight for insults. You're pathetic. You always think you're better than everyone. Congrats on ruining your own family, genius. I didn't respond. I just let the messages pile up like junk mail. Meanwhile, work was quiet but demanding. The office buzzed with the usual Monday chaos, but I was oddly calm, focused. My coworkers noticed. Man, you're on fire lately, my team lead said, watching me knock out a project ahead of schedule. Yeah, I said, half smiling. Just cut out a few distractions. Nobody needed to know that distractions meant 2 grown adults and their man-child wrecking their own finances. By the 5th day, the text turned desperate. Your father won't talk to me. He's being impossible. You happy? Yeah, kind of. I didn't block them. I wanted to see the fallout unfold in real time. There was something deeply satisfying about watching people who always assumed you'd fix things finally face the cost of their own choices. From what I could tell, the house was falling apart too. Dad had stopped bailing them out. He'd told Mom flat out that he wasn't calling me for help. Apparently, that turned into a shouting match that lasted 2 hours. According to one of her messages, she tried every trick in her book. Guilt, nostalgia, you're tearing the family apart speeches. But Dad didn't budge. He's changed, she texted. He's cold. He doesn't even care if we lose everything. No, Mom. He just finally woke up. Jerry was worse off. His ex, the hotel receptionist, went nuclear online. She posted screenshots of their texts, payment requests, and even a few of his voice messages whining for cash. She captioned it, "When you find out your hardworking boyfriend is just a full-time moocher." The comments were brutal. How do you live off your own family and still lie about it? Dude's the type to borrow your charger and never return it. Golden child turns out to be gold-plated. By midweek, Jerry's reputation was in free fall. His friends stopped replying to him, his car got towed, and his job, the one he bragged about, turned out to be a temp gig he'd already lost. Every new mess that hit him felt like poetic balance returning to the universe. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, went to work, came home, made dinner, watched mindless TV. If anyone at the office noticed how quiet I'd become, they didn't ask. At night, though, I'd sometimes read their messages again, not to torture myself, but to remind myself why I was done. Every word screamed entitlement, not love. It wasn't, "we miss you," it was, "we need you." And that was the difference. By the weekend, the noise started dying down. The calls came less often. The texts got shorter. Reality was setting in for them. Then one night around midnight, I was lying on the couch half asleep when my laptop pinged. A new email. No subject line, no sender name, just a string of random characters. Normally, I'd delete it without a second thought, but the preview text caught my eye. "I know why your mom favors Jerry." I sat up. At first, I thought it was some scam, maybe spam with a dramatic hook, but something about it felt different. The timing, the wording, it wasn't trying to sell me anything. It was personal. I stared at it for a long time. The cursor hovered over open. My stomach had that low, uneasy twist, the one that says, "You're about to find something you can't unsee." The message sat there, waiting. One click and I'd know, or I could leave it, pretend it didn't exist. For a minute, I just sat there, hands still, watching the glow of the screen. Then the screen dimmed, the subject line fading into black. I didn't open it, not yet. But deep down, I already knew. Whatever was in that email, it wasn't random. It was a crack in the wall I hadn't even known existed, and something told me once I opened it, the entire truth about my family would finally come crashing down. I stared at the screen for another 30 seconds, heart thudding like it was warning me not to do it. Then I moved the mouse and clicked open. The email loaded instantly. No greeting, no name, just a line at the top that said, "You deserve to know the truth." Attached were several scanned documents, old, grainy, some hospital headers barely legible. My first instinct was that it was fake, maybe some elaborate scam or a cruel joke, but then I saw the names. Patient, Jerry Anderson. Mother, Rebecca Anderson. Father. Recorded, David Anderson, my dad. Except below that line was something else. 2 separate DNA reports, both dated from 2001, back when Jerry was just a baby. The first listed Dad as the tested father, showing paternity exclusion, 99.98%. The second, from the same hospital, labeled another man, Michael Harris, with a paternity inclusion, 99.99%. I scrolled further, heart pounding. It wasn't speculation, it was documented. Hospital admission logs, matching dates, signatures, everything lined up. Jerry wasn't my dad's biological son. He belonged to someone else, a neighbor. He'd lived 2 streets over when we were kids. I remembered him vaguely, always around, helping with yard work, laughing too loud at Mom's jokes, showing up at BBQs uninvited but never told to leave. Back then, I just thought he was one of Dad's friends. Now, I wasn't so sure. The last attachment was a short note typed in plain text. "Your mother lied to everyone. Your father deserves to know. I've carried this for too long." No signature, but something about it felt personal, like whoever sent it had been sitting on this for decades, waiting for the right time. The metadata on the PDF files even showed traces of an old fax machine ID, one that matched Michael Harris's old business line from years ago. I sat frozen for a while, rereading the documents. Once, twice, 10 times. Eventually, I picked up my phone and called Dad. He answered on the second ring. "Juanita?" "Dad," I said quietly, "you need to see something. Check your email." I sent the files, all of them. The line went silent for almost a full minute, then a faint shuffle. The sound of paper, a quiet exhale. "Where did you get this?" he finally asked. "An anonymous email," I said. "I thought it was fake, but—" He didn't respond right away. I heard him breathe slow and heavy, like he was trying not to break. "I always suspected something," he said eventually. His voice sounded older, smaller. "Jerry never looked like me, never acted like me. But your mom, she always found ways to shut me down when I brought it up. Said I was being paranoid, said I didn't trust her." "Dad." "I wanted to believe her," he interrupted. "I didn't want to tear the family apart. I figured even if he wasn't mine, I'd raised him like he was. That was enough." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, suffocating. You could hear years of betrayal sitting between us. I didn't know what to say. For once, the man who'd held everything together, who never yelled, never cried, sounded defeated. "Dad," I said quietly, "this isn't your fault." He laughed softly, bitterly. "Maybe not, but I let it happen. I let her make me feel crazy for years." We talked for hours after that, about Mom, about Jerry, about the little signs that suddenly made sense. The secret phone calls, the old friend visits, the way she always defended Jerry no matter what. Every story we traded felt like another puzzle piece snapping into place. By the time we hung up, the sun was rising. I barely slept. I just sat there staring out the window, replaying everything. Every holiday, every argument, every "you're overreacting" that now had a whole new meaning. At 8:43 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. I filed for divorce. I stared at it, reading it over and over. Relief washed over me, sharp and quiet at the same time. The truth was out, but with that truth came fallout. Within hours, Mom was calling nonstop again. Voicemails pinged, one after another. Angry, frantic, desperate. "Juanita, how could you do this? You're destroying this family. You have no right to dig into the past. This is between me and your father. Stay out of it." I didn't delete them. I saved every single one in a new folder on my computer labeled Proof. By the next day, the news had reached Jerry. I didn't hear from him directly, not at first. But then late that night, he finally texted, "Mom told me everything. Is it true?" I just sent him the files. No words. He read them. I could tell from the seen notification, then nothing for 20 minutes. When he finally replied, the message was short. "I hate her. Hate." That was it. 3 words. But they said everything. From what Dad told me later, Jerry packed up and left the house that same night, moved in with a friend who still tolerated him, stopped answering Mom's calls, stopped defending her. For the first time, the golden child finally saw who'd been shining the light for him all along. Meanwhile, Mom kept spiraling. Angry voicemails, texts full of denial, half-truths, and emotional blackmail. She claimed Dad was being manipulated, that I'd planted fake documents to turn them against her. But it was over. The truth wasn't something you could spin once the evidence was sitting in everyone's inbox. Dad called again 2 nights later. His voice was steadier this time. "You were right to cut them off, Juanita. If you hadn't, we'd all still be living a lie." "I didn't want it to come to this," I said quietly. "I know," he replied, "but sometimes things have to break before they get fixed." He was right. As I hung up, I looked around my apartment. Quiet, simple, peaceful. For years, I thought walking away made me the villain, but all I'd really done was take away their shield, and without it, every secret they'd buried came clawing to the surface. They said I destroyed the family, but the truth was, it was already destroyed. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. Months passed. The chaos didn't hit all at once. It came in waves, the kind that keep crashing long after the storms moved on. Jerry went first. Word around town was he'd burned every bridge he had. The girlfriend he lied to, she was done. His so-called friends, gone the second he couldn't pay them back. Eventually, he ended up working at a retail store near the mall, the kind of place where the uniform shirt does most of the heavy lifting. I saw a picture online by accident. There he was, stocking shelves, looking like someone who finally met the consequences he'd spent a lifetime outrunning. Mom's life fell apart next. The divorce went public fast. The perfect family image she'd spent decades curating cracked overnight. Neighbors whispered. Old friends stopped visiting. Her name became a kind of warning. The woman who gambled away her marriage and lost her daughter's trust for good. Financially, she was done. Between the settlement and the mess she'd made, her credit tanked. The house went on the market but didn't sell for months. Utilities were shut off twice. Her car got repossessed. I didn't celebrate it, but I didn't pity her either. You can't break the people who carried your weight for years and expect sympathy when the bill shows up. Dad, though, he finally looked like himself again. He sold the house, took what was left, and moved to a smaller cabin-style place just outside the city. Peaceful, quiet. Somewhere he didn't have to hear constant arguments echo through thin walls. He called once in a while. Short talks at first, just 2 people learning how to talk again. Then, one Friday afternoon, months after everything went down, I heard a knock on my apartment door. When I opened it, Dad was standing there with a suitcase in one hand and a grin on his face. "Surprise," he said. I blinked. "You flew out here?" "Yeah," he said, stepping inside. "Figured it was my turn to show up uninvited for once." We both laughed, the kind of laugh that doesn't feel forced. That night, we went to a quiet diner downtown. At one point, he set his coffee down and said, "I should have stopped this mess years ago. You were right, daughter." I didn't interrupt, I just listened. "I saw what was happening," he continued, "but I kept hoping it would fix itself. I thought keeping peace was better than blowing things up. Turns out I was just letting it rot." I nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I did too, for years." He sighed, looking out the window for a second. "You had the guts to do what I couldn't. You walked away before it destroyed you. I'm proud of you for that." It was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and slid a small envelope across the table. "Your grandmother left me something before she passed," he said. I never touched it. Figured I'd save it for something that actually mattered. Inside was a check, a large one, more money than I'd ever seen from family in my life. "I can't take this," I said immediately. "You're not taking it," he said. "I'm giving it. You earned it a long time ago. I want you to use it for something that's yours. Not bills, not anyone else's needs. Yours." I stared at the envelope, speechless. For once, money from family didn't come with guilt or manipulation, just trust. We spent the rest of the weekend catching up, talking about business ideas, about life after the fallout, about what comes next. By Sunday morning, we had a plan, something small but real. Dad had years of experience managing logistics and equipment. I had the finance side down to a science, so we decided to start something together, a small supply business. He'd handle the groundwork, I'd manage the numbers. Simple, straightforward hours. The next few weeks felt like breathing clean air after years underground. Paperwork, phone calls, planning, all of it felt good, productive, not forced. For the first time, I wasn't fixing someone else's problems. I was building something new. I'd thought family was something you kept no matter how much it cost you. But sitting there beside the one person who stayed honest when it mattered most, I finally understood. Family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who shows up when everything else burns down. And this time I wasn't showing up alone. That small business Dad and I started, it grew faster than either of us expected. What began as a side project, just the two of us handling local supply runs, turned into something stable, even thriving. He'd wake up early, drive the routes, handle the inventory, while I managed clients, finances, and paperwork. For the first time, our conversations weren't tense or cautious. They were about progress, plans, ideas. We were a team, something I'd wanted my whole life but never had with anyone in that family before. Every so often, Mom would still try to reach out. New number, new email, new excuse. Her messages swung between guilt and nostalgia. "Your father's changed, he doesn't understand," or "We could fix this if you'd just talk to me." But I didn't reply, not out of cruelty, just peace, because some doors don't need slamming. They just need to stay closed. Jerry's name came up once in a while, too. Word was he'd left town. Some said he moved in with a cousin states away. Others said he was working odd jobs, trying to start fresh. I didn't wish him harm. I just hoped he'd finally learn what accountability felt like. Months turned into a year. The business grew steady enough that Dad finally started smiling again. The real kind, not the tired half smile he used to wear at home. He'd stop by my place with takeout, brag about landing a new client, or just drop in to watch a game. Sometimes he'd say, "You know, kid, you were right all along." And every time I'd smile and tell him, "You were too, you just needed to see it." The past didn't vanish. The scars were still there, but they didn't hurt the same way anymore. They were reminders, proof that surviving betrayal doesn't make you bitter. It just makes you smarter about who deserves your loyalty. One evening, we were sitting on the porch of his new place, a small cabin surrounded by pines, crickets humming somewhere in the dark, when he said something I'll never forget. "I used to think family was what you were born into," he said quietly. "Now I know it's what you build when the old one falls apart." I looked out at the trees swaying under the dim porch light and nodded. "Yeah," I said softly, "and I think we finally built ours right." We sat there in silence for a while, no tension, no pretending, just peace. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the outsider in my own story. I was home. A few months later, the business hit its first big milestone, our own warehouse lease. It wasn't fancy, just a mid-sized lot near the industrial park, but when I held the keys in my hand, it felt like freedom. Dad walked in beside me, looked around at the bare concrete floors and empty shelves, and grinned like a kid. "This is it," he said, "a fresh start." We painted the walls ourselves that weekend, ordered used shelving, installed an old coffee maker that sputtered more steam than caffeine. But it was ours. Every screw, every receipt, every late night was ours. Sometimes after closing up, I'd sit at my desk, scroll through old photos on my phone, and realize how far we'd come. Not just financially, but emotionally. There were no more guilt trips, no more silent treatments, no more pretending that love and obligation were the same thing. Then one morning, a letter arrived. No return address. The handwriting was familiar, Mom's. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, a single page. "Juanita, I know you hate me, but please listen. I lost everything. I'm living in a small apartment now. I think about what I did every day. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I was scared. I thought if I told the truth, I'd lose your father. I guess I lost everyone instead. I hope you and your dad are happy. Take care of him for me." There was no signature, just a shaky line where her name should have been. I folded the letter once, twice, then set it aside. For a long time, I just stared at it. Part of me wanted to feel anger again, but I didn't. I just felt tired. Maybe that was forgiveness, or maybe just acceptance. Either way, I knew I wasn't carrying her mistakes anymore. Later that evening, I showed the letter to Dad. He read it quietly, then handed it back. "What do you think?" I asked. He exhaled slowly. "I think she finally realized what truth costs when you spend a lifetime avoiding it." We didn't talk about it again. We didn't need to. The past had said enough. That night, as we locked up the warehouse, Dad clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You know," he said, "I used to wonder what kind of woman you'd become after everything." I smiled. "And?" He grinned. "One who doesn't take anyone's nonsense and still manages to care. That's a rare combination." I laughed. "Guess I learned from the best parts of you." He chuckled softly. "Maybe. Or maybe you just learned what not to repeat." Either way, we both knew the truth. We'd made it through the fire, and somehow, we'd come out lighter. As we walked out into the cool night air, I looked up at the warehouse sign. Anderson Supply Co. Simple. Honest. Built from ashes. Family wasn't about blood anymore. It was about rebuilding what betrayal tried to burn. And standing beside my dad under that flickering sign, I realized something. I didn't just survive my family's lies, I outgrew them. And that, more than anything, was the real inheritance. Years later, that warehouse grew into something much bigger than we ever imagined. Anderson Supply became a trusted name in the region. Not flashy, not corporate, but steady, reliable, built on the same principles Dad had always lived by. Do good work, stay honest, and pay your debts, especially the emotional ones. We hired a small team, people who reminded me of the version of myself I used to be. Quiet, overworked, underappreciated. I made sure they never felt the way I once did. Pay on time, respect time off, celebrate birthdays, the little things no one did for me. Every now and then, when we'd close a big deal, Dad would lean back in his chair, cross his arms, and say, "Can you believe it, kid? After all that mess, this is what we built." And I'd smile. "Yeah, Dad." We turned betrayal into payroll. We'd laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was true. Mom never called again. I heard through a cousin that she'd moved in with her sister across state lines. She was volunteering at a church kitchen, living quietly, no longer trying to keep up appearances. I didn't reach out, but sometimes I caught myself hoping she was okay. Not because she deserved it, but because peace shouldn't come with conditions. Jerry stayed gone too. Every once in a while, someone would send me a link, a Facebook profile with his name, a photo of him working construction somewhere down south. He looked older, worn, but grounded in a way I'd never seen before. Maybe he'd finally learned that growing up isn't about what you take, it's about what you carry. Dad and I settled into a rhythm. Sunday dinners, morning coffee at the shop, quiet drives home after long days. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It was full of understanding, of the things we didn't have to say out loud. One evening, we were closing up late. The sun was dipping low, painting the warehouse windows gold. Dad was stacking some boxes near the door, and I was finishing the books when he suddenly stopped and looked at me. "You know," he said softly, "you saved me." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "If you hadn't come back that day, for my birthday, I'd still be living in that lie." "You didn't just cut them off, Juanita. You pulled me out too." I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened, and for a second I just nodded. "We saved each other, Dad." He smiled, that quiet, tired smile I'd known all my life. But this time, it wasn't worn down. It was peaceful. When he passed a few years later, it wasn't tragic. It was gentle. He went the way he lived, steady, graceful, without a single loose end. In his will, he left me everything. The business, the cabin, even the old watch I used to play with as a kid. But the part that got me was a handwritten note tucked inside a small envelope. To my daughter, the one who never stopped doing what was right, even when it cost her everything. "You turned pain into purpose. You made me proud to be your dad. Keep building. Keep standing tall. And when the world tries to make you smaller, remember, you already proved you don't need their permission to exist." I cried for the first time in years, not out of sadness, but out of gratitude, because I finally understood the full circle of it all. Dad had spent his whole life fixing broken things, and somehow I'd inherited that same instinct, only now I wasn't fixing anyone else. I was rebuilding myself. It's been 5 years since he's gone. Anderson Supply is still running strong. The cabin's still there. I go on weekends sometimes, sit on the porch, drink coffee from his old mug, and watch the sun climb over the trees. Sometimes I still think about that first text from Mom. He doesn't need to be here. She was right. I didn't need to be there. Because I finally learned where I was supposed to be. And that place wasn't their house. It was my own peace. So if you're listening, wondering whether it's worth cutting ties, setting boundaries, or walking away from the people who never saw your worth, let me tell you something. It's not betrayal to choose yourself, it's survival. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is stop letting them hurt you. Because when you finally do, you don't just find peace, you become it.